Year's end means year's end lists, and I don't have enough friends to annoy, so in their place, you must suffer. Here's 37 films I saw this year ranked in a tier list. Now this is going to be a list of films that I saw for the first time this year, not just a list of films that came out in 2019. There's not going to be any organization within the tiers. If they're in the same tier, then these films energized me in a similar way. Simple as that. Starting from the middle, we have the Are You Hungry? Let's Grab a Pizza tier. Barring certain intolerances, these movies are palatable if unremarkable. The baseline good movie. Down a tier, we have the okay to mediocre movies. This is the chip bag half full of air tier. You probably don't think about these ones too much after you see them, which some people may say makes them the worst movies of all. And worse than that are films that are interesting enough but have some significant flaws. This is the Mango Cobalt Calzone. Above the middle, we have films whose lows are outweighed by one or multiple exceptional elements, like a great recipe you have to scroll through 4 pages of someone's trip to Manila to read. One rung higher sits the films that demonstrate some of the best the medium is capable of. And that's poutine, friendo. Down at the bottom are films I would advise you avoid seeing. These unordinary dregs of cinema are just the worst. They are neither enjoyable nor energizing. They are colonoscopy. Perfection is not an ideal anyone should strive for, but you would be hard-pressed to find fault in these films at the top. They are the rare, they are the exceptional, they are Nutella. Just don't look at their sugar content, you will be sad. Let's get into it. In the spirit of the new year, let's partake in my tradition of lamenting all the things I didn't do last year. Searching takes to heart the old saying that the medium is the message. What could have been a novel if gimmicky showcase, seeing the events of the story through webcams, computer windows, news footage, aids in the telling of a poignant story about disconnection in a connected world. This is a real tearjerker and a hell of a first film for director Anish Chiganti. Get well soon, Space Cowboy. Annihilation is my horror movie ideal, an unnerving, slow boil about some of the darkest aspects of the human existence. How pain transforms us, that cancer sucks, and bear attacks also suck. Ant-Man and the Wasp. This is one of the most nothing films I've seen in a long time, so in place of its poster, we're gonna put a Cheeto. Let's do some from this year. Captain Marvel. It's okay. In the broad strokes, it reminded me a lot of the first Thor, and just being a better first Thor isn't all that impressive. I was taken out of it by how funny the film tried to be. I know that's a common complaint for Marvel films nowadays, but this is the first one where that really landed for me. It felt like it was trying to do Guardians of the Galaxy with all the 90s references and needle drops, but it just didn't have the same soul. That being said, I loved the shot of Carol descending down onto a planet, and she crashes into a building, and the camera moves down, and you see that it's Blockbuster. This tells us we're on Earth, it establishes the time period, and rip Blockbuster. That's a good film joke. Detective Pikachu, a no hyperbole perfect film. But where's Lapras? Where's Brooklyn accent Meowth? Where's Femme Fatale Gardevoir? Do they know the Pokemon fandom? Tolkien. I'm putting this in the tier that I said are for movies I don't really think about afterwards, but I did think about this one quite a bit. And in lieu of trying to remember my whole script, I'm just gonna read it for you. Tolkien is a movie pulled in several directions, and cannot concede enough ground any which way to deliver a cathartic delve into the cardinal it traverses. Tolkien's relationship to his friends ends sourly with a letter that their fellowship will never be broken, but the film doesn't support that. This is Boromir has died, and we're going over the waterfall with him. How many of you have seen Tolkien and would have found that insightful? I don't know. There were like 2 or 3 sequences that focused on Tolkien's love of language that he was so well known for, and those sequences were fascinating. I really loved them. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. The story was so bonkers that it took all of the excitement out of the cool action sequences for me. Sorry, I really didn't enjoy this one. So if you don't want a Godzilla film made by Gaijin, then you should see Shin Godzilla. You know that part of Godzilla movies that no one likes? The humans? Well, they made a movie that focuses almost entirely on the humans, and it's amazing. The human characters aren't in themselves interesting, but as a collective, I loved seeing them grapple with, what if we have a major national disaster, and the national disaster is Godzilla? How does modern Japanese bureaucracy handle that? What do we concede to try and survive? I bet if you have a strong understanding of Japanese government, you get a lot more out of this movie, but I still had a blast with it. And that final shot, whew, that's poutine, baby.
Can I be real with you right now? Can we have like a real moment right now?
Can you have like a real... I saw Evangelion for the first time this year, and I didn't like it. I just didn't like anybody. I don't know. I realize that sounds horrible given what those characters go through, but I just wasn't into it. And I knew what to expect going in. I like apocalyptic stories. They can be really cathartic, like burning your room down, which is probably what'll happen if these lights fall over, so I should stop. And just between you and me, what is Japan seeing Rei? She's boring. Time came around to watch End of Evangelion, and I didn't get it, I'm gonna be honest. So I took a 3-week correspondence course, consulted some experts, watched some videos. I think I get what was going on now, but it's like having the joke explained to you after you didn't laugh. I can appreciate it, and maybe over time I'll come back around, but right now I'm like, eh. I think it's cool that the movie functions as sort of the bad ending versus the show's good ending, and I appreciate what they're going for with the long therapy session at the end of both of them, but it's boring! The problem's me on this one, is what I'm trying to say. Memes told me I was to expect the line, "Get in the fucking robot, Shinji," and it wasn't in there. Kessel of Cagliostro. Even though it was his directorial debut, I'm kind of surprised for Miyazaki. The lead female character in this movie is such a cipher. There's nothing to her. She's basically a plot device. That's really unusual for him. Promare. Hey, did you like Kill la Gurren? Did you like Lagan La Kill? You'll like this. The Snowpiercer is getting a TV show now. I finally got around to seeing it. And you could call this movie blunt, but when your main theme is about social inequality, I don't mind having my skull bashed in. So one of my goals last year was to watch a lot of kung fu films to try and get a better understanding of fight choreography. I watched 2, and the first was unfortunately what is popularly considered to be the best kung fu film of all time. I didn't absorb anything. It was like learning how to garden from Cthulhu. The other film I saw was Kung Fu Hustle, which escalates from axe-fighting wire fu guys to shooting invisible air scythes. That was dope. Speaking of big boys getting in big was alright. It's kind of a big silly mess, but I was into it. Enough of the emotional beats worked. Compared to Infinity War, it's a film of a lot of trade-offs. Thanos wasn't as interesting this time around, but Nebula was really cool. We got to see some heroes who weren't around last time, but the Infinity Gauntlet didn't get to do cool stuff. Like, nothing is going to beat that moon throw. But seriously, I can't recall like one moment where they did something super neat with the Infinity Gauntlet. Which seems like a big missed opportunity, and Black Widow got done dirty. For better, or probably a lot worse, this is a big part of film history, so it was neat to see. What was less neat to see? Joker. All that fuss for nothing. This was a very empty film with token jabs at current issues. Joaquin Phoenix starts in a very sympathetic place, but that just slowly gets degraded by how cartoonishly evil this society is. Now, I don't hate this movie. Honestly, the most frustrating part is that people seem to have gotten something out of this. Like, to me, it was such an empty film, but if the worst that comes out of Joker is that some people start going, hey, there is wealth inequality, or hey, the mental health care system is fucked. Like, good job, Joker. Thank you for being baby's first societal critique. It's time for a Disney animated hullabaloo. Frozen 2. I also saw Frozen 1 for the first time this year. It's a Disney movie. Frozen 2 is a Marvel movie. Hunchback of Notre Dame. I am technically cheating with this one. I did see this film as a kid. I don't know how old I was, like 7. But that Kevin, biologically speaking, is dead now. There's this trope in anime where a character will vomit, but the vomit's all like rainbows and sparkles. And that's Tangled. Hellboy! 2004. I finally saw the first Hellboy movie, which means that by 2034, provided we aren't all dead, I'll have seen the one that came out this year. Time for lightning round. Little Rascals. I saw this movie with my girlfriend and she really loves it, so don't tell her what I thought, okay? Don't show her this video. World War Z. Like the zombies in this film, it moves too fast and is dead inside. Creature from the Black Lagoon. I made a whole video about this. You can go and watch it. Revenge of the Creature. I'm as much a fan of randomly flailing around underwater as anybody, but I wouldn't make a whole film about it.
The creature walks among us.
Brought the most interesting aspect of the Creature films to the forefront, made it the text. It's really good. The Hound of the Baskervilles. Having only seen the BBC Sherlock show, it was refreshing to see a Sherlock who's not a total piece of garbage. He isn't around for maybe like a third of the film, but nonetheless, this is a real standout. Someone told me there weren't a lot of jump scares in it, and I imagine had that conversation continued, they would have told me, we all float down here. I do enjoy being scared by media, but I don't enjoy being startled, and that I enjoyed this film in spite of all of that, I think says a lot about it. It was okay. Conspiracy theory. I caught half of this on TV. I remember half of that. The rest has Mel Gibson in it, so I imagine it sucked. Lucy. This is another one I watched with Laura, and she was really excited for me to be freaking out about how bad it was, but honestly, I kind of dug it. Like, this may not be exactly what happened, but I'm pretty sure there were like these characters who were like, oh, we got you now, Lucy, and then it would cut to like a spider getting a fly in its web, and I'm like, this is so stupid. I love it. My favorite part was like Scarlett Johansson gets telekinesis, and like Darth Vader in Rogue One, she suspends this guy in the air, and he's just helplessly flailing at her like, I'm gonna get her. Like, what are you gonna do, guy? Inglourious Bastards. It usually takes me like 7 times of watching a Tarantino film before I'm finally like, and this one was like that. But I'm increasingly loving movies where Nazis get the shit kicked out of them. That's still really relevant for some reason. Swiss Army Man. At first I was like, oh, and then I was like, and I was like, oh, and then I was like, ugh. All right, we're down to our final 4. I'm gonna start with my least favorite movie that I saw this year. It didn't come out this year. I had to catch up on this one, and it's Green Book. I don't know what it is about racial tension and driving around that just does it for Oscar voters. Maybe they listen to a lot of YouTube on their commute. Either way, this white savior nonsense is kind of embarrassing considering Moonlight won the Oscar the year before and Black Panther was up for Best Picture that year. Oh well. The Rise of Skywalker. It's bad. Last Jedi made me learn something about myself and filmmaking. It challenged the core of a series that was really foundational to my youth and to my interest in storytelling and fantasy. And Rise of the Jedi spat in the face of that. This is the first Star Wars film I have no interest in seeing again, at least anytime soon. I don't think it's the worst Star Wars film in terms of its singular qualities, but as the culmination of a trilogy, it is far and away the worst Star Wars film that I have ever seen. Like, Clone Wars and Attack of the Clones are probably worse, but this was really disappointing. And now, the worst film of the year. What is it? What could it be? What depths have we sunk? It's Cats. It's obviously Cats. This movie was an unbearable cycle of wanting every song to end and then pleading the eldritch horrors to resume singing so that we could end this awkward silence. Words fail to describe the unbelievable horror that is them nuzzling up against each other. My eyes wanted to roll back into my skull. But Kevin, not bottom tier? Did McCavity come and sprinkle you with his catnip? I tried to reserve the bottom tier for stuff that is really offensive, and I think there's something that can be said about unintentionally creating the year's greatest horror film. And also, it felt a little weird to be putting Cats, which is crazy but ultimately harmless, and Rise of Skywalker in the same general space as Green Book. Like, they're not bad in nearly the same terms. And without much ceremony, my favorite film this year, Knives Out. Easily the best 2019 film that I saw, though admittedly that is a small field with little competition.
I actually saw Parasite while editing this video. That's top tier too. Yeah.
For whatever reason, I always have a hard time talking about films that I loved. So the best thing I can say about this film, without giving anything away, is that a character vomited multiple times on screen, and I did not want to vomit myself. That's how you know this is a well-made movie. And that's it. So this year, I'm looking forward to Artemis Fowl. And Artemis Fowl, that's it actually. What looking at this catalog of films that I've seen over the last few years has told me is that I view a lot of stuff that is made by people who look like me, white dudes. So this year, my goal is to watch and play media that is created by other people, women, LGBTQ people, people of color. It's a new decade. I want to see new perspectives that I haven't encountered before. And I encourage all of you to do the same. If you have any suggestions or just want to leave a list of your favorite stuff that you saw this year, please do so down there. You know how it works. You've been on this site. Let's see. My favorite YouTube video this year was J Music Ensemble, their cover of the special stage from Sonic 3. That is an absolute bop. Hands down favorite video that I saw on YouTube this year. It's great. Yeah, I guess that's it. Have a happy and